Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula. Registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates and Retirement Tax Partners with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirschner. Myself, my name is Chris Swan. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. Once again, that's 419-794-3030. You can find them online, find out more about the team, set up a time to speak with them at ARHQ.com. Today on the show, are there opportunities if interest rates stay higher for longer? We're going to talk about the risks of retiring early and the true story of a young woman who was put in a tense situation by her grandpa's estate wishes. All this and more. But first, let me check in with the guys. Nolan, Scott, glad to be with you guys. Also, we've got a special guest, so let me see how you guys are doing, and then let's welcome our guest into the show.
Doing great. You know, we had a nice win for Anthony Wayne hockey over St. John's for their homecoming night, and later tonight, Saturday, I'm going to be doing our Anthony Wayne homecoming, so I have a senior there, and it's going to be going out on the ice, and mom and dad are going to come join them. So it's one of those another bittersweet moments, you know, as we go through kind of our hockey season and enjoy our seniors tonight for a little hockey lineup over at Tamashanner.
So, Nolan, I'm going to ask, do you ever get out on the ice?
I very carefully, I'm the guy that kind of holds the side, you know. My kids will just skate around me, but, a little bit every now and then.
You know, I remember back in the day, and I haven't been there in a long time, but the walleye on Sundays, after Sunday games, they'll let you actually come out on the ice and skate around. And so you're the guy that we see, you know, shuffling alongside the boards and that, the couple skate and things like that. It's always fun to get back on the ice. You used to do that as a kid, you know, and with the weather the way it is right now, you know, as cold as it is, I remember skating and playing hockey on the pond, you know, no pads, no helmets, the frozen puck to the face kind of hurts, but today these kids are phenomenal on their skates. They skate better backwards than a lot of us did forward, and it's pretty neat to watch these kids skate.
Definitely. We do appreciate you guys taking time out of your always busy schedule to spend with the listeners here. Let's go ahead actually and dive into the show here with a callback to a show that we talked about, or a topic we talked about previously. A Shark Tank investor, Kevin O'Leary. Last year he said, he ruffled some feathers, we had fun with it, when he said you need about $5 million to retire. He's walked that back a little bit. He's done a reversal and says, with careful investing, you can now retire on $500,000. His plan, fixed income products that return 5% and a balanced portfolio that returns 8 to 9%. Sounds like he's gotten a dose of reality, seems to be talking to everyday people. But that 8 to 9% return, let's talk about that. Does that mean a level of market risk that our listeners would or should be comfortable with?
Well, I guess the $1 million question here is, what is a safe amount to retire with? And, you know, Scott, we had talked a little bit about this before we kind of got on the show. And, you know, if you think about $5 million for Kevin O'Leary, that probably is not even enough for him based upon his lifestyle.
No, exactly. You know, $5 million at that 5% to a guy that's worth billions of dollars. I mean, you're seeing him all over the place, you know, talking about, you know, the different types of economic woes here and there. He's a go-to guy now, and, you know, he's made a name for himself, and $5 million for him is nothing. And, you know, Nolan, I guess I would ask this question, you know, because I'm at a point now where I'm, you know, 5 to 10 years out looking at retirement. You know, everybody's got that magic number. You know, what's important to them? What number is important to them? When you have someone like me that is looking to prepare for retirement, what do you tell them is their magic number?
Well, for every client that we work with, we build out something called the independent portfolio analysis, and then we walk through developing the written retirement income plan and the independent income system. And if you look at that, you know, $5 billion here in Northwest Ohio, obviously for most folks would go a long, long way. But I would say that, you know, more often than not, when you look at kind of the advice and thinking about that $500,000 mark, that's a lot of the times what we see when we're working with folks that are close to or in retirement time. The one thing that I liked about Kevin O'Leary's advice is he talked about, you know, a portion of the money in the fixed income with, you know, rates still being relatively high, and then having a balanced portfolio that maybe gives some stock and bond exposure as well. What I like about that is it kind of gives a backup plan. And that being that when the stock market is working out, you're able to maybe take some of the profits off the table, use that for some of the fun things that you want to do in life. In those years when the market doesn't do so well, you could live off some of the fixed rates, not be forced into a situation to sell off your equities in a temporary down market. It really is the philosophy behind the independent income system. So if you're wondering what your number is, we have something that we've created here at our office. It's called the Retirement Savings Calculator. And we can take all of your information. When we put it together and we build out your retirement team action plan, what we'll do is we'll walk you through helping you figure out exactly what your number is to build that confidence of what you need for getting you not only to, but also through that entire retirement time. Taking some risk, Scott, in retirement, I think is a good idea. It's okay to take a little bit of risk with your money.
Yeah, taking risk is a portion of that, right? But, like I've heard you countless times talk about the independent income system, and having a diversified portfolio allows you, those buckets of money to take care of health care, take care of some other, the fund money, the income streams that you're going to need. One of the things that's very, very important is, healthcare costs, pre-65 and long-term care. I mean, those things are not covered unless you actually purchase a plan, right?
Well, it's really why, going back to that independent income system, having those buckets of money designed to create different purposes for what money is going to be used for. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to help, and I'm going to help you figure out, what is a safe amount to retire with. Number one, I want you to look at what your annual expenses are. Cover minimum income expenses that you need. So what does it take to run your basic lifestyle and your house? You need those to be covered from reliable income sources. So that could be Social Security, it could be pensions, it could be annuity. If you find that there's a gap in what it takes to run the minimum income in your household, you may want to reposition some of those equity or risky assets into something that provides more predictable income in retirement time. Number two is you want to consider longevity. A lot of people will come into the office and say, Nolan, well, nobody in my family lived past age 75, so I've run the analysis and I better just spend it now. Well, people are living a lot longer today. And so building out longevity into your plan, and that's why it's important to have that reliable income, so that income can last as long as you do, is very important. As Scott pointed out, looking at the healthcare cost, one of the advantages, I think, of working with us, the team here at America's Retirement Headquarters, is you get, the different businesses looking at it from an investment perspective. We're looking at it from a healthcare perspective. We're looking at it from a tax perspective, and bringing all of these areas together, because those expenses can be different for those folks who retire before the age of 65, figuring out navigating affordable health care. When you go on Medicare, understanding things like excess premium taxes with IRMA, and, how to not have your life savings blown up if you or a loved one needs some type of long-term medical care. That's where we bring in your team to help out.
Yeah, Nolan, I have a horrible situation. It's kind of a sad story. I had a client that actually, husband and wife, he was driving to work and had a heart attack. Ran off the road. They found him sitting in his car off the side of the road. Rescue squad got there. They were able to save him, brought him back. The problem was he was so drastically impacted health-wise that his surviving wife came in, and he actually was put into nursing care, and with a very large retirement portfolio through his employer, they had to exhaust all of those resources before there was any help available. And unfortunately for his wife, she didn't have access to any of those resources that he had. The long-term care facility, based on the level of care that he needed, was roughly $15,000, a month, where that's pure money coming out of their assets. And if you're not properly prepared for that, he didn't get up in the morning and drive to the office and think, I'm going to have a heart attack today. I better be prepared. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you don't see that happen very often, but how do you protect against that?
Well, the other issue, there's oftentimes men, we're typically stubborn. I'll talk to a guy and I'll ask him that question. Well, what are you going to do in your family situation if you need long-term care? And they might say, well, take me out to the woodshed, right? Just put me down.
Yep.
That sounds good while we're young and we can say that now. But the reality, like in your client situation, when that actually happens, and you're faced with this $15,000 a month bill, what you're doing is you're draining those assets down because, if he gets better, he still needs money to live off of. Or God forbid, if he doesn't, he's drained those assets down for that surviving spouse. And if that's not a drain, the other thing you have to factor in for a retiree and figuring how much is a safe money is factoring in inflation and making sure that you have a bucket of money that's designed to give you a pay raise in the future. So where your stock market money, and again, Kevin was talking about looking for more growth type returns, that tends to be more for your long-term growth bucket of money. That tends to be the bucket of money that you can utilize for your lifestyle goals. We've got 2024, we've got 2023, good back-to-back years overall in the equities. And so when you're thinking about having some house projects done, or you're thinking about taking that trip or vacation that you wanted to do, when you're exceeding your goals in your stock market part of your portfolio, spending those excess profits is, a strategy that we will oftentimes talk about. The final thing to do is figuring out, that safe amount of money is to have a bucket of money that's designed for the what ifs. We've heard the talk of people saying, is 4% a safe withdrawal rate? And a lot of people move into retirement time and they'll plan on living off of that 4% rule. But what they don't think about is having then an excess bucket of money designed to cover those emergencies that will happen in life. And folks, whether it's a flood in the basement, whether it's a family member who needs bailed out, or whether it's something else happens, just plan on a what if that's going to happen. So the independent income system is a way to help you identify and address all of that. If you're wanting to know in your individual situation, is it 5 million? Is it 500,000? We can answer that question for you and help you put that together in that retirement team action plan.
And it's as easy to reach out and get that started by giving a call right now, 419-794-3030, 419-794-3030, or go into the website, which is ARHQ.com. The answer, of course, is going to depend on person to person. Kevin O'Leary, $400 million net worth, by the way. $5 million, probably not going to be great for him, but for a lot of people, it could work, and it really just depends on your circumstances. So give a call to the team at America's Retirement Headquarters. Start developing that retirement team action plan for you and your family, 419-794-3030. Right now, we are about halfway through the open enrollment period. People that are on Advantage plans, what should they know about their options? What are some reasons an individual would consider making a change to their plan? And quite frankly, what are the deadlines for making these changes?
Well, guys, that looking at the annual enrollment period, looking at, the last quarter of last year, I know how many meetings that you guys had with people coming in and looking at, the plan changes. And I think, if we look at the open enrollment period this year, there's some big changes that went into effect. I think when you guys were so busy and, working and meeting with so many people, I was celebrating the holidays. One thing that I think about is we had hosted the holidays at our house for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I go down typically 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year, and I get the Ronco rotisserie chicken out of the basement.
Set it and forget it.
And we set it and forget it. And my wife, we make prime rib, we make chicken, we make just fantastic stuff for the holidays. When you think about, Medicare and you think about that, a lot of people just take a set it and forget it type of an approach. But this year in 2025, I think is important to not necessarily do that, especially if you have a Medicare Advantage plan. And the reason being is we had something called the Inflation Reduction Act that went into effect. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, what they did is something that seems good, right? They put a cap on the maximum out-of-pocket prescription that a consumer on Medicare would have to pay on the Advantage plan. But look, folks, the insurance companies, as well as the prescription drug companies, are not in the business of losing money, right? So, whatever happens that's designed to be a positive, there tends to be a side impact of that. And, what we've seen some changes that have happened. And so if you're on Medicare Advantage, one of the things that, people should be looking at right now when they're thinking about their different options that they have.
Well, Nolan, you brought up a really, really good point there. You know, the Inflation Reduction Act did cause a lot of uncertainty. I guess maybe would be the right word. You know, a lot of people weren't really sure exactly how things were going to play out and what was going to happen. And, you know, a lot of these insurance companies didn't exactly know how to do that and what to do. And, you know, one of the things that I've come across over the past couple of weeks, you know, some of the clients that I enrolled and Dan and Troy enrolled in during the AEP, we're getting some phone calls. I dealt with a client just last week. It was actually quite frustrating for us because the client is negatively impacted by this. They called up and said, hey, you told me that a doctor was in the network, which we always look and verify. We're required to do so,
sure.
Right?
Right from the carrier website.
Part of our AHIP certification is we have to do this, right? And, you know, the frustrating thing is when they said, well, I called my doctor's office and they said, we don't take that plan. And I says, well, let me check. So, you know, now I'm second guessing myself and I log into the company portal and sure enough, right there, it shows that doctor is in the network.
Correct.
A lot of times, and Dan, you dealt with this a lot, you know, coming from the company side. Now you're, you know, obviously on our team, but a lot of times the actual provider, the doctor's office, you may talk to somebody in records or you may talk to that receptionist. And if they're the ones that are answering the question, they don't really know whether they take the plan or not. And the easy answer is, I don't know, or we don't take that. You know,
and Scott, they're not going to know if their doctor's office is owned by a corporation if they're in negotiations with that carrier.
Exactly.
That happened this year.
Yeah, exactly. And another one of the calls that I was able to help a client with was my doctor put me on a new medication, and that medication is not part of the formulary. What do I do? One of the things during the open enrollment period, it runs from January 1st through March 31st. This is the time where you get that one free do-over. For any of you golfers listening out there, it's your mulligan, so to speak, right? Or your breakfast ball. You know, a lot of people say it's the breakfast ball.
And it's important to note that it's the Medicare Advantage open enrollment period. So it only applies to people that are on an existing Medicare Advantage plan.
That's correct. Like a Medicare supplement or a prescription drug plan, it doesn't pertain to that. It's only the Advantage plans. Mm-hmm. This is the period of time where you get that one free do-over to make that change. So if you have a new medication, you can change to a plan that will cover that medication. This particular client was put on a new medication and that it wasn't covered, and that drug was roughly $1,300 a month.
Right.
Okay. So they were put in a situation where they either don't take the drug, which is never the right situation. Not advisable. Or they pay that out of pocket, which they weren't willing to do, or we move them to another plan. So these are things that we take care of here. We go through and validate and verify that your medications and your doctors and hospitals are in network. Dan, what does that look like from a company side? Because I know that you were there for, you know, roughly 25 years working on the company side. What other input might you have on that?
So, Nolan, to your point, the set it and forget it, that's what it used to be. Medicare took the open enrollment period away from the consumers in 2011, and they brought it back several years ago. But from a company side, what they're confined by Medicare to what they can and cannot do as far as advertising, as far as promoting that, yes, you can make a change. So from a company side, they're always making sure that the clients that they enroll are trying to make sure that they're on the best plan available for them, make minimal changes to formularies quarterly, and try to make sure that those doctors do stay in the network.
You know, when you say the set it and forget it, you know, a lot of times when we do our events, you know, I'll go through and take a survey amongst those guests that are in the room, and I'll ask how many of you currently are on Medicare, and then most of them, you know, some of them will raise their hand, and then of those of you already on Medicare, how many of you have an independent advisor like us? And it's shocking the number that don't, you know. So here's the thing that I want you listeners that are on a plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, that don't have an advisor right now. If you're running into an issue with a prescription or a doctor or a facility not in network, your recourse, you think that setting it and forgetting it is going to automatically put that doctor in your network or automatically get that prescription covered. It's not. And your company is not going to help you or reach out to you, because if you're direct with a particular company, that company is not going to tell you, well, this other company offers that benefit and covers that prescription. That's not going to happen. These are value adds that AMA and our team provide to you, is the flexibility of knowing that we represent all of the carriers in this Northwest Ohio area, and we're able to shop the market for you. There's no cost when you sit down and talk with us. We go through all of the plan benefits, and we make sure that you're on the right plan moving through the rest of that year. That's what we do here at AMA.
We certainly hope this isn't the case, but perhaps as you've been getting your first appointments in for the year for 2025, you may have gotten a little bit of sticker shock, finding out that things aren't on formulary anymore. Your doctor is no longer in network. We hope that is not the case again, but do not think that you are resigned to that for the remainder of the year. The open enrollment period is exactly what this is for, making that one-time change, but the window is closing. You've only got until the end of March, so reach out to the team at America's Medicare Associates. Or if you have questions about your retirement in general, as a whole, things that we've talked about this week on the show, or you just want a second set of eyes on your plan as it stands, America's Retirement Headquarters, the entire team, the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates, Retirement Tax Partners, they are here for you. Just give a call, 419-794-3030, 419-794-3030. You can always find them online, as Scott said a second ago, ARHQ.com. I want to thank you, as always, for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. I hope you stay safe out there. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Appreciate the time. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, have a fantastic weekend. Have a great week. And just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home of the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates, and Retirement Tax Partners. We'll see you next week here on Toledo's largest talk station, 1370 WSPD, and also on your favorite YouTube channel or podcast.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.